Alright, so today we're going to talk about classes and objects in Java. Um, in Java, classes are used to create objects, and objects are reusable. So that cuts down on maintenance and, it basically, enforces code reusability, which is always a good thing. So let's open up a new BlueJ project. Let's just do a new project. Just call this objects, and in your BlueJ IDE you want to hit this new class button, and whenever you specify a class name, the first letter always has to be capital. So we're just going to create a person class, and hit OK. Don't worry about these other radio buttons for now. As you can see, this created this person object. So if we double click and get in there, and just erase everything that's in here for now, within this person scope here. So this is called the class header, this first line here. As you can see, there's three keywords. There's the public keyword, the class keyword, and then the class name, which is person. And this first letter always has to be capitalized, which I already mentioned. But every class needs to start out with a default constructor. And what that is, it looks like this: public person. And this constructor, this default constructor, is going to get fired off every time a person object is created. And generally you put your class fields at the top right here above the default constructor. And fields can be strings, ints, bytes, booleans, basically any attributes of the class. So what attributes does a person have? Well, a person has a name and an age. Every person has a name that they're addressed by and an age. So let's see, public string name, and this is declaring the name variable, and we also need another variable for the age. So let's do public int age. And right now these fields are publicly accessed, and we don't really want that. We want them to be private. So we're going to go like this. There's three different scopes that fields can be: public, private, and protected. You generally want them to be either private or protected. I won't get into protected until we actually go through an inheritance example, but you generally want all your attributes of a class to be private, and all the methods, which I'll explain later, to be public. So that's actually the next thing that we're going to do, is we're going to provide some methods, which are behaviors of a class, to set and get these attributes. So we can set a person's age, get a person's age, and the same thing for their name. So let's start with creating a method to get this person's name. Public string get name, and here we're just going to return name. Now, as you can see, this is the method header, and inside of these blocks is the return type. So in the method header, there's this which is a scope of the method. Since this is public, it can be accessed outside of this person class. If we name this private, then only methods inside of this person class could change or could access this method right here. And that's not really what we want for this accessor method. We want it to be public. We'll do the same thing for the age. Public int get age, return age. I forgot to mention, this is the return type right here, and this is a method name. The return type of the method must return the right type. For instance, if I try to return a string, well, this age attribute is an int, we're going to get a compile error. See, incompatible types found int but expected string. So we want to change this to int, back to int. So now we can get this person's name and age. So how do we set the name and age? Well, we'll just provide some setter methods. Public void, because this method is not going to return anything. Whenever a method doesn't return anything, it returns void, which is denata. So set age, int age, this dot age, which means this class's attribute age right here equals age, which is this parameter name. We'll do the same thing for the name. Public void, since we're not returning anything, set name string name. This name equals name. And I'll hit compile, and we'll see that worked. And again, this right here is called a parameter. If we name this, or if we set this parameter type to int and try to compile, it's not going to work because these types need to be compatible. This name, which is right here, which is a string, must be the same type as the parameter here. So that doesn't work. Again, if I compile, it'll highlight this and say incompatible types found int but expected string. So we need to change this back to string. Compile, and you can see there's no syntax errors. Now we'll get into an overloaded constructor. As I said before, this is a default constructor, and usually in a default constructor you want to set your attributes to a default setting. So name equals default name, and age equals let's just say 10. And so whenever a person object is created, the default name and age of this person will be default name, and its age will be 10. Now we can also do an overloaded constructor, which looks like this. And it looks basically the same as, setter methods. You pass the parameters that you want to set in here in these parentheses, and then you set them down here in this block. Again, just so we're clear on setting parameters, I could call this the name and call this the age, and if I did I have to set this right hand value to the name and the age, and if I do this, I don't need to include this keyword if the parameter name is different than the actual class field name. However, I usually like to keep the names the same and then just use this, so it's less juggling around with names. So that's the person object. So how do we create this person object? Let's create a new class and call this